Welcome to the Weare April Conservation Commission meeting. Andy Fulton, our chair, is absent tonight. I'm Steve Najar, the vice chair, so I'll be running the meeting. Jeff Jackson, Bill Bolton here, our other members, so we have a quorum and can proceed. Any volunteers to take minutes?
I got them.
All right, perfect. We have a bunch of guests in the audience, so Conservation Commission custom dictates. We will go ahead and hear from our guests first before any other regular business. And is everyone here for the same reason?
Yep.
No,
Okay.
sort of.
We two are
We're gonna volunteer to be on the
volunteered to
committee.
help your committee.
Okay, cool.
Real live volunteers. And
Yeah.
We don't want.
So, the custom there is just kind of, hang out, I guess, and see if you like it. And
I've come a lot of times, if you
yeah.
remember correctly.
I know. So, yeah, good deal. How about the dog?
He likes conservation.
All right, cool. So yeah, if someone else wants to step up.
I guess I have to go first because
Because
I don't want to.
I don't want to.
First of all, I'm Sheila Cleveland, and here regarding the proposed construction on Riverdale, the industrial, it's not really an industrial park, but we've been calling it an industrial park for years, and putting 4 more new buildings there, and our concerns with, I don't know if you want this map or
Yeah.
not, but it shows the stratified aquifer
Uh-huh.
the property sits on, and if you needed the, so the map, so I do have this, if you want to see exactly where it's located.
Sheila, do you have a copy of, because we reviewed this last month, and then we don't have the actual proposed site plan. Would you happen to have one of those with you?
Yep, we sure do.
All right, awesome. Just because I think Bill wasn't here, in case he's not familiar with it. Jeff, I think you saw it.
I did.
We reviewed it. Oh, you clarify, Bill.
Well,
Yeah, awesome. Good.
Andy sent in comments on it.
Yeah, do we have those?
Bring them up here.
Okay. We did make some comments. We may have missed one thing. And that's also, I'm just trying to pull up the New Hampshire granite GIS layer that this came from. Okay, it's got the same thing here. It's actually got the transmissivity in feet square per day. If we need to look online, we can see more of the spatial extent of that. You got
Yeah, so Andy's comments to planning board, basically, a couple things. Natural resource inventory shows a moderately high co-occurrence score indicating a high habitat value in the area. We have a concern about the amount of impervious to be created next to the river, concentrating stormwater discharge and location.
Yep. Okay.
Two primary.
So Sheila, yeah, sorry about that, but,
That's okay.
but go ahead
And I don't know if these questions pertain to you or not, or maybe you can tell me who could answer them for us, but my neighbor had questions as well, and she couldn't be here because she has to work tonight, but is the cutting of all the trees a significant disturbance to the environment?
So let me give you a little background first on what we do, just so everybody knows. It's not from the conservation commissions. We're an advisory committee, and we also do a lot of land management, and so we try to provide advice to like the planning board, or some zoning board issues will come up, or just the town in general, on what we think about impacts, and we review plans and try to look at conservation type issues. We can't really make we can make some suggestions and some judgment. We can't make like enforcement calls. We don't have any enforcement ability. So like, say a question like significant disturbance to the environment, just from my background is forestry. I mean, if you were just clear cutting to clear cut, it's a disturbance, but it's short term in nature, even though not to us as humans, but it's gonna grow back. But that's not really the reason for the clear cut,
Right.
So yeah, I mean, stuff like that probably isn't super helpful to try to get into, rather than just kind of look at like your overall concerns, things like watershed, or but we
Yeah.
can't make like really judgment calls without getting out there and seeing it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So along the same lines, then the stumps as well, if they're, if they were to bury them, if it would be harmful to the environment, so that should probably not be your,
It's all legal, it's not.
burying the stumps and,
Burying stumps?
I think it is on private property.
On a stratified.
No, yeah, I mean, so you get all different situations, but just generally speaking, stumps can get piled up.
Buried?
I believe so.
Because there was an issue on Perkins Pond Road here a few years back where somebody was burying them, and then we had the state of New Hampshire on a Saturday morning at 5 o'clock up there, and they said, stop burying stumps.
Yeah, one might have been in a wetland or something. Anyhow,
wasn't-
yeah,
it's
all
not
right.
wet, I
So
don't know.
I take my comment back. See what I mean? So anyhow, right. So yeah, I don't know. You guys got anything to add? There's some of the stuff we're not going to be able to.
yeah, that's it, and I figured I'd ask for her, and as far as the river being a protected river, that would be probably something with the watershed or the Scattaquag River.
Well,
Did you say?
you have to look at like zoning, so we reviewed and made comments to the planning board. And you
Yeah.
have to look at, state law and zoning. So we try to review. Now, I think we might have missed. It seems to me the plan didn't label that's the aquifer.
See? No, it doesn't.
Yeah, so that was a miss, and like usually we that's a different zoning, that would be expected to be on here. In the general notes. Usually they put the zoning in here, alright, so here we go. Wetland, an aquifer protection zone. So they've got it in there. I don't know if they really showed where I guess it's actually through the whole entire piece, as I understand, just looking at these. So yeah, they have it on the notes that it is in the aquifer protection zone.
So what was that?
Green Yard,
Green yard.
Yeah. What so they've got that. Current land use is commercial, that's a zoning. So those two could overlap each other, the aquifer and the commercial. Stamp. Yeah, so I mean, most of the things we look for here, so let's hear some more of your concerns, because we had concerns as well,
Yeah.
especially
then-
wildlife and water related.
yeah, exactly, and to the amount of, large, heavy industrial equipment and the junk being stored at already the site that he has down there now, and what damage is that being done to the stratified aquifer?
Mhm.
And then the last question was, who determines that the whole parcel there needs to comply and provide assurance with the New Hampshire DES green yards? That was a question she had as well.
Yeah, I'm not, guys chime in, I'm not sure if we're gonna be able to answer some of those questions, but if you look at, the the Weare zoning, that there are a couple issues, like as far as the percentage of impervious to, I just happened to browse through that, we looked at it before, and I'm not not sure we're gonna be able to tell you that tonight. The planning board and the actual person designing it should be able to answer a lot of those questions.
Who actually said come to the conservation committee to discuss these things versus the zoning board?
I wouldn't go to zoning. CBA is just for,
Changing zone?
no, for appeals, that sort of thing.
Exceptions, okay.
Yeah, so that, I got an email and call about this and, there's concerns, so they can always come in and talk to us. I think so we're kind of listening to it, make some comments. I guess this is still in the planning board process. We got the email about kind of late on the site walk, so there wasn't really a joint site walk set up.
Yeah, listen to,
It's, there's definitely, there's a few different concerns that I keep hearing. We went through, there was an unrelated parcel with the same owner where some of the same concerns came up. And some of these we can't do anything about.
right,
They're the really enforcement issue. The part about the maybe non-compliance or compliance with Weare zoning as far as
Yeah.
storage of equipment.
mm-hmm,
So those are things that really need to, because, look, we kind of went through this before, and we had a discussion about it, maybe it's coming close to a year now, about those issues. And the neighbors up on the, I think, the other side have brought that to us. Right, so yeah, if we can keep going, I mean, some stuff we'll be
Yeah,
able to
let's
help you with.
he's got, Dave has some.
Let's,
And we got a copy of the application with your memo in it, that's why we came here to ask you the
Yeah.
questions about that.
David Nelson of 10 River Road, been there for 57 years. And I was just thinking, I didn't know it might be a concern that possibly you might want to do some sort of a wildlife impact study or something around the area. That used to be like, there was a field actually right behind, actually part of that parcel was a small field. And it's grown up into like bushes. And there was quite a bit of different, wildlife. It was kind of a meadow type deal with different salamanders, turtles, and what have you. Different wildlife that always roamed around through there. Because when we always did the hayfield, we always used to stop and, move whatever there was out of the way. And one of my concerns is I think there should be some sort of a wildlife, check and see what's there that's going to get disturbed, because a lot of it is down where they're going to be putting the leach field area and towards the detention pond. And as far as that storm water, all of that discharge from that storm water, when you start taking all of that runoff from all of those buildings, coming off of the buildings and the parking lots into that one storm drain, yes, it's a closed system, dumping it all into that one storm drain, into that detention pond. If you've got garages that are working on anything, you've got a lot of grease, oil, and things like that that are going to go in. They're going to go into that detention pond. They're going to either go right into the wetlands or they're going to go right down into the ground, into the aquifer.
Yeah, those are good points. And, I've been on the commission for quite a while, and
I didn't know if that's something that should be brought up to the Conservation Commission,
Yeah.
or if that, I know it needs to be brought up at the planning board also, but I thought at this level, this might be something that should be brought up to you to get somebody else to behind us also.
Yeah, so let's get some thoughts down here, and then we need to decide what we want to do. Now, there is precedence for that being requested. It was done at Duck Pond years ago. I don't know if it was.
And I don't know if it's something you could need to do a walkthrough to take a peek, or.
What's that?
Yeah, it was, well, so we did essentially what we're doing here is a high-level review. We're just trying to look at these plans, and then, as you know, we go on the maps, and we looked at, we have that natural resources inventory, and then I think I pulled up the New Hampshire Fish and Game one is the one that we actually cited. So it's a co-occurrence model of natural resources, and it scores it higher, so the river makes it score high. And then there may be some things, my guess is there's probably wood turtles in there. There's probably brook trout somewhere up and down there. They put brook trout in there. I'm not sure if any of the mussels are in that stream. So there's a
Yes,
bunch
there are.
of reasons to, there's a bunch of reasons why that co-occurrence score comes up. And so, something like that is obviously bad for natural resources, no matter how you look at it. You know, not making any judgment calls about what they're doing, but just new impervious surface that close to a river is not good. You know, frankly, our zoning doesn't make sense down there, but
No, exactly. That's what I said to him at the planning board.
yeah.
Somebody made an error 15 years ago or whatever, 20 years ago when it was zoned, and they zoned that commercial. That's a huge error.
Well,
on their part.
it might have been because that was already built, you know, this other thing, and they were just looking at it all as one big area that was already kind of messed up. That's also like,
Because that was part of a farm, actually, of Jeff Smith's farm. And I don't know how it happened to end up getting thrown into the commercial fact, but
Yeah.
I just wanted to bring those few points up. I wasn't sure exactly which way to go, but
I mean, you know, we can, we need to come to a consensus as a commission, but things like that, you know, I think we're wide open to making comments or considering comments like that, and where it's been done. in
and
the
I just hate to
past.
see something get dumped into the aquifer, you know, with the river and things right there. It's once it gets into that, excuse me, that wetlands right there, it's into the river very quickly.
Yeah, and you know, so the thing I you know, when this came up, I actually thought we missed this. Turns out, luckily, it was out on here about the aquifer, because we didn't comment on it, other than, you know, you saw what we had for comments last month.
Because that whole area is an aquifer.
Yeah, yeah. So the thinking, you know, just about aquifers and digging back through the zoning, the aquifer zoning, there's some more restrictiveness that's supposed to be there, but I don't get like practically how that gets enforced over the years. Kind of the problem, you know, it's 'cause
Yeah,
you make a bunch of little
exactly.
industrial buildings, and we're calling it commercial, but who really goes in there and checks what's really going on, you know?
Exactly.
But yeah, there's a bunch of stuff that hasn't come to us yet. If you look at the aquifer zoning, I don't know if you guys are familiar with it. It has a bunch of additional requirements, and
There's a lot of restrictions to it.
yeah, we haven't got any of that to review yet, and I'm not sure that we will or won't. I actually,
Is there a permitting process with the state that would double check any of this?
I don't know. I really don't know. I mean, you run into your
Wetland.
And I was going to talk to the town myself at the planning board level and mention about a little more erosion control protection, you know, during their construction level, because what they show on that plan is, to me, is quite inadequate, you know. I know it meets their guidelines, but gee whiz, you know, it's pretty rough around the edges. If you look at this one page, it shows it, and it's pretty frightening.
you know, I mean, unfortunately, those are like your short-term construction issues.
Yes,
Real
exactly.
Long-term damages. You know,
Oh, yeah,
whatever comes up-
exactly,
whatever
you know,
comes off of-
that was,
yeah.
you know, I know they keep saying it's a closed system. Yeah, it's closed, but it all goes into that one detention pond, and it dumps into that overflow, dumps right into the wetlands.
Yeah, let me look at.
That's
the-
what it's designed for.
Right, let me see so there's a specific zoning article that's related to the aquifer, and this is,
Yeah, very light
29.
commercial and,
well, yeah, Article 29. And it, it's supposed to go on, you know, this map that's labeled, it refers back to the aquifer transmissivity map right there. So this is, you know, any of these areas that are shown here actually fall within the zoning district. So this actually falls into it. And then there are a bunch of requirements in there that, it would probably be worthwhile, you know, just having a joint meeting to hear how this is all gonna kind of play out. Because honestly, we haven't paid enough attention to this. This has come up once before in the what's the name of the industrial park that's over between 114 and 77? Yeah, B&B. Because remember, like, someone wanted to do there was some kind of concern. I don't know if it was. Is that what it was? Trash?
That's right.
Yeah.
Recycling.
Yeah. I don't know whatever ended up happening with that. So there's a bunch of prohibited uses. You know, if it was industrial, it's prohibited over there, but this is kind of coming in.
A lot of little gray areas.
Unregistered junk automobile, junk and salvage yards, so there's
Now-
already,
I know I'm speaking out of turn here, but I know we can't do anything about the existing lot right next to it that's already commercial. But if you were to look at what they're doing there, that already falls into prohibited uses. This is the same people.
yeah,
So,
and-
so I mean, to say that they won't do it, hard to say they won't, because they already have rusted vehicles sitting, not on the asphalt, but on the dirt section, with all the chip and paint and everything into the dirt. Now, I know the paint that they use on commercial vehicles, industrial vehicles, backhoes and whatnot, is probably not good stuff to have in your water.
yeah, so that's come up before, and all we can tell you there, I would think, and
No
guys chime in,
enforcement.
is, I mean, if you feel like there's a zoning violation, there's a process in town, and, you know, please use it. You know, if there's anything we can do that is, from an advisory perspective, we surely help you, but, you know, as far as junkyards, I don't think you can create any new ones. I know it's come up, we looked at aerial photos, so yeah, there's definitely, you know, there's some grievances that people were concerned of, and we heard of it on the last time around. So if that hasn't resolved itself, there's definitely a process to use. So, yeah, I would use it.
Hey, thank you very much for your time.
Oh, thanks for coming. So there's, you know, that whole, I don't know if you, Jeff, did you pull that up as well?
No, I didn't.
Yeah, it's, you know, so it's in the 2017 Weare zoning ordinance. There's,
So who do you go to raise these concerns? Is it the zoning board?
well, we can get them down. I mean, for us, yeah, I mean, we just get them down and send them to the planning board. So you've got all these performance standards for doing anything in the aquifer zoning. And then there's a 10%, so any use that will render impervious 10% more or 2,500 square feet of any lot. A stormwater management plan shall be prepared, which the planning board determines is consistent with, so,
New Hampshire stormwater.
yeah, we up over, how many feet of impervious? Did they give us that?
They may say in the plan, but.
Oh, sure.
Yeah,
So we might have missed that. And that goes to, is that David's comments on the impervious? But we might be a little slow trying to digest this. I don't know, Bill, if you
5,300
Yeah.
square feet.
how much?
5,300 square feet. That's just the parking.
5,300. What did this say here? 2,500. Okay, so do we have the stormwater plan then? Flip through. So they're above that threshold. That's existing conditions. Non-residential, commercial development.
Street drainage utility. Erosion control.
Yeah, you know, we're not gonna figure this out here because there's a whole manual on this, on the stormwater. I don't know if anybody's taken a look at that, but I'm not sure. So can we jot that down as a comment? Is it, it's just not really clear if there is a stormwater management plan that's prepared in accordance with zoning
Yeah,
article.
the only stormwater protection that I could see that he had is what he has there, according to his notes. He says that he does. He's followed the New Hampshire stormwater.
He wants to get a permit.
Oh, is that in there? Well, no, that's just a zoning thing that says it copies it, but,
The slip.
He says he's followed it. I don't know if he has.
yeah, we'll have to throw that at them and see what they say. So I'm just not, you know, I'm not familiar with that manual. I don't know if you guys are.
No.
Yeah.
Stormwater protection plan.
Well, there's a manual they refer to in the zoning, 2008 manual, volumes 1 through 3. That's probably something like a engineer really needs to
Because the state is actually mandating, that permit to be done for a stormwater protection plan. That's a state mandated plan. Anything over 1 acre in size
Yeah.
requires that. Not the town.
Well, there's something in town zoning though that require, it's got some other language in there. What else we have in there?
Looks like there might be some issues given that.
There's,
29, depending on the space.
well, there's just a ton of compliance issues with Article 29. I don't know how the planning board deals with that. You've also got in there all transfers of petroleum, so I don't know how this place is heated, but I mean, you have to have, like secondary containment for any petroleum transfer.
For storing it?
No, just for the transfer. So if there's oil heat in there, and an oil truck pulls up, it's gonna be parked on secondary containment.
It's right in these.
5 gallons. 5 gallons, yeah, yeah. So I would just put a generic note, it's not clear if this complies with all of the zoning in Article 29.
Got it.
Wouldn't, it would, I'm assuming it would be normal, planning board to send something like this, where it's certainly gonna be kind of off the engineering firm, town engineering.
That's a good comment, I want to just suggest that, because this is way over our heads,
Yeah.
way
I
over,
think that, and I know that the developer has the deal,
yeah.
and the towns. I'm not speaking loud enough.
Yeah, I know.
We're all leaning in, like.
Yeah, we all tend to mumble.
I would assume that the planning board would send this to the town engineer.
Knowing you assume, right?
Well,
Yeah, and it's for you folks that, I don't know that, but I would assume it. And I would also assume that that engineering firm would have to verify all these things. And I would assume that you folks would ask that they do that.
Well, I think we can do that, Bill, as well. So if we, that's, I would be happy to include that as a comment, that this seems to be so complex that we would like to see an environmental or civil engineer review this for compliance with Article 29.
It won't,
And-
it's not gonna happen in a day.
Because there's a lot to this. When you start digging into that Article 29, I'm not sure if the town's really done its due diligence. I just don't know, you know. Concerned looking at that now. Because we're talking about secondary containment for any transfer of 5 gallons or more. That means if you come in there with a pickup truck with fuel on the back of it, a little tank, you're
Yes,
over the
secondary
5
containment.
gallons and you need secondary. And, you know, you have to be parked on the secondary to do that. I don't know how you'd ever enforce that. But.
Everybody knows what that means, secondary containment?
Yeah. So it just means like you're parked,
Containment
or you have more,
barrel.
yeah,
You
Like a
lose your 5
containment
gallons, where's it
tank.
gonna go?
or curbing, you know, there's a lot of different ways of doing
Impervious
it.
tank, something to pull into,
Yeah,
to transfer it, in case there's a spill,
yeah,
So it can go down.
it'll go into the tank.
on the asphalt, or, yeah, just so it doesn't leach out in the environment. Excuse me. So, I mean, so far we've got, you know, that great comment from Bill that I think we all agree with. You know, we're concerned with Article 29, which we just didn't talk about enough last time. The wildlife issues still stand. I mean, we can say we're aware of at least one time when a wildlife study was requested by the planning board. I could recommend they do that, because it is, you know, it's clearly it's showing up in an area that's got a high score for co-occurrence.
David, you mentioned haying a field near there, what, to the?
Yeah, it used to be, it's grown up into bushes right now, I stopped paying it. I can
Where in
show-
relation to this, plan?
The access was on
Talking up here?
the little road,
Agricultural?
right here, This little access road came in right by Jeff Smith's driveway, right through here. And the field was right in through here. It was probably about an acre and a half. I'd say an acre and a half of field. It's all in bushes and trees, cause nobody ever took it over after I stopped. I stopped, 30 years ago, probably.
Oh, is it back on the north corner there, or is it on
That would be, let's see, where's the plan? North, so it's on the east.
so right now, alright, so here's that thing. Oh, this isn't, I got it, we're not oriented north on this thing, right. So that's that
Yeah, 'cause
building
it was
there,
just off of
yeah.
this, the wetlands was down here towards the
Yeah.
river, and the field area was up this way.
Right. I got it.
Because it would actually incorporate part of this, was in the field, because it was a little flat field, and this road, it dropped right off, and that's kind of one reason why I gave up on it, because the old road that went in there, it was so steep right by the edge of it, it all kept eroding away, and there weren't nothing left of the road, and it was like, you had to be a mountain goat to get in there, and the newer equipment I got was too wide to fit down the road.
So, how do you drive into this thing? On here?
Here, yeah. It's
Yeah, the oil mill road.
It's when,
Private.
it's access.
So does this end up being the same lot, the whole thing?
Well,
He
they
wants
could
to
expand
combine it.
So, if we're already adding on, so the thing where you're seeing like a bunch of equipment that's outside, so that will end up being all in the same, like, lot and business and everything, right?
Yeah, this is what we developed.
Yeah,
Right, so-
we'll end up on the same property if he gets it combined, yes, it'll be on the same.
So is that stuff all still there, all the equipment and everything's on the photo?
That's pretty accurate. Pretty current, that's pretty current.
The stuff there?
No, a lot of
That's
that's
gone?
gone, it's
Oh.
moved up over onto his son's property off of Jennifer Lane,
Oh,
piled underneath the power lines.
hmm.
We cleaned it up before the sidewalk.
Oh, yeah.
You can
Okay.
see it, you can see it from in the site by looking right up the power lines.
Okay. So,
That's
hi,
I've been patient.
sorry about
He's been
that.
here 57 years.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, it's helpful.
58, by the way.
So Jeff Howard, 11 River Road. So I'm right across from the area of this proposed construction, and I have a lot of concerns about the earth products being removed, what that would do in terms of dust going into the river, just the amount of elevation that's going to drop in terms of dirt and gravel that they're going to move, and what that's going to do, what guarantees will be in place to stop all of that from going into the river, and what
Yeah.
that'll do to the surrounding area. So I don't know if that falls under your supervision, but just
Well, like I explained, we're advisory,
Mhm.
and I think what Bill had suggested should broadly, this all falls under that zoning article, Article 29, where
Mhm.
there's a bunch of additional requirements. So if the town can professionally engage someone to review, if they go forward with this, to look at the plans, that's gonna be a lot better than just us sitting here talking
Sure.
about it.
okay.
So yeah, totally agree.
Yeah,
Good
because
comment.
it's a significant amount of area when
Uh-huh.
you look at it, and it's. I'm just thinking of the in terms of material removed across from Langtots, how much dust I saw go across the road during that process, and I'm concerned about that was a road. I'm concerned about what would happen to the river and the surrounding area. So.
Yeah, so you're concerned about the long term
Mhm.
as well as the short term on impacts on the river then?
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I can personally attest that there are mussels in there. The first thing I caught when I moved in was a mussel on my hook. So.
Yeah, I wonder if there are brick floaters in there or not. Maybe Thanks.
Steve, I don't know if you know this, but my understanding is when you're building in around a river at all, or a pond or any, well, river, I guess, I was told that you're supposed to have 150 feet area all the way along that river bank. Now, I don't know if that's what they've got, if that's right or not, but I have read that before, that it's 150 feet
Yeah, they're
buffer.
pretty far. So we have there's a couple of wetlands in the way already between the river. They've got those delineated. They show the Weare. They have a 150-foot natural woodland buffer line. They are showing that. And then also they have the...
I didn't go down and
50 foot.
measure it, but I did go down there a couple weeks ago when they had the walk. I just went down to look. I don't believe there's, from where I was standing, I don't believe there was any 150 feet of woodland. I may be wrong because I didn't walk down in there because it was wet and stuff, but I think that might be something somebody might want to check out. And I don't know if you've got that information on your computer there.
So my understanding is some of this has been cut, so this aerial imagery may not be accurate. The other really significant problem to understand is when and I don't know how you deal with this. You can, in the state of New Hampshire, for commercial timber harvesting, a bunch of these rules don't apply. So when we do natural resources management, we can go in and harvest areas, and it's a different set of rules, and they're intended to promote long-term forestry and habitat management. Then if you got someone who goes in there and strips something kind of pre-development, it sort of gets in under the radar of just a normal logging job, it really gets problematic to deal with. So even like, I'll give you an example. The Weare wetland buffer, which I think they forgot to put this on now that more that I look at this, there's a couple of buffers, but the way that's written is, say for agriculture, the buffer rule doesn't apply, and it doesn't apply for forestry. And the reason is not to discourage forestry, because we know, you can have young growth that's good, that's around a buffer, and it's good for a habitat value. But when it comes to development, that same forest, that it's a filter strip, right? That you want it there and not to be impervious surface, and has a lot of value. So the problem now is kind of dealing with someone that maybe probably should have waited to do anything to get the approval, but wanted to get one step ahead, and it seems like that happens an awful lot.
Would it be fair to say, has there been any construction work done in 150, or just the trees?
Well, and they didn't cut all of them. They left some trees there. So, and like I said, I think you really have to walk down in there with a tape measure and kind of take a look.
It's all private now.
That it's still a woodland.
Mm-hmm.
Even though the trees are cut right now, it's still a woodland. There may not be any trees, or very few, but it's still a woodland. In 2 years, it's going to be
Brush.
growth. In 25 years, it's going to be trees. If the bulldozers and the excavators don't get into that 150 feet, I think you'll find that you will.
So they can cut trees.
Everybody can.
Yeah, so within rivers, there, if you look at the basal area law in New Hampshire, problem is after the fact, you're essentially going to go in there and measure stumps if you're really going to enforce it, and so I think it's typically like half the basal area can be removed, but we'd have to look.
50%. It needs to be a well-distributed stand.
Yeah, yeah, but then they also, it got changed around a little bit with shoreline protection too. So I couldn't sit here and say I'm completely up on it, because I typically don't have to worry about it much in my own work. But those are things to look at. But they're more meant for, long-term management, not this situation. So they do have that labeled, and they do have the no disturb buffer labeled on the wetlands, and they do have, so there's also like septics to septic systems. But the big part of this is really all the zoning Article 29 compliance that is really going to be next to impossible for us to determine. So I think it's important that the town does have someone that can really go through this as an engineer. Come on up, who's ever get next, just.
My name's Kevin LaFave. I live at 16 Depot Street, which is right abutting up that corner down there. We bought a place on Duck Pond Road, so we're residents. Technically, I am in New Boston right now, the house that I'm at on Depot Street. The only concern well, not only, but one of the concerns I have is in 29, but I just want to bring to your attention, 29.7.2 talks about the maximum lot coverage to impervious surfaces. No more than, within the aquifer protection zone, no more than 10% of a single lot, including the portion of any new street abutting the lot, may be rendered impervious to infiltration. The 7-acre lot, he did on the walkthrough, when we did the walkabout, he mentioned that they'd be under 100,000 square feet paved. That's almost 2 acres. 10% of 7 acres is 7/10 of an acre. Or what, something to that effect? So you got, and I think Dave mentioned he may try to combine it with the other lot that's next door because it's all his property, but that's already paved. So, I mean, I'm not sure how the math works, but if it's a 7-acre lot and he's gonna do under 100,000, so I don't know if that's 75,000, because he mentioned under 100,000, well, once they hit 100,000, they have to, there's some law they have to deal with, he mentioned over so much paved, there's another study that has to be done. But to me, unless he's paving 3/4 of an acre, he's over the 10%.
So he's combining his lots, and they're using 14.407 acres.
That's 1.4 acres of lot that he can pave. That's somewhere around, what, 64,000 square feet? Now, if he's combining the lot, does the lot that's already paved, does that pavement also count towards his 10%?
Yeah, it says maximum lot coverage, and this is all, you know, I don't want to have our commission get in over our heads. I think we still
Right.
stick with our.
But I just want that
recommendation.
point, when you guys were talking about 29, to me, that's a pretty big sticking point, because
This ordinance is 27, this is December 2017, the ordinance that's on. So maybe just a general note about that, and, you know, we can add our concern. Did we already say something about the amount of impervious in the last comment? So, yeah, so I mean, that's still, we agree with you.
unfortunately, I'd never heard the last meeting. I just got in on this in the last 3 weeks. So
Yeah, no, that's
if I
good.
repeated anything you guys have already done, my apologies.
No, it's a big deal, so, you know, we're here to listen to you and to do this, so, thanks for your comments. And that all goes back to the same problem, you know, the compliance with that zoning, it's complicated.
Ask one more question?
Absolutely.
Just
Come on
about,
up.
so the joint meeting, if you guys do decide to get together and have that, would it be open to the public as well?
They always are, Sheila.
Oh, good, okay. So I'm in a butter, we are in a butter, so we would get a letter stating when it would be and so on.
So are you actually in New Boston too? Dan?
I am in New Boston
Okay.
too, but we have property in Weare as well,
Well, it's okay. We'll
so,
listen to you. I don't
and a
think it's
house in
big deal for
Weare
New
as
Boston.
well,
'Cause,
and New Boston.
I mean, there may be a whole nother issue about,
And I'm right on the river,
yeah,
Yeah, there's a lot of towns.
there may be a regional significance issue that got overlooked.
so I just wanted to make sure that we'd be able to come.
Yeah, thanks.
That's it, thank you.
Because Goffstown pulls their water out of that aquifer, right?
That's my understanding. I tried to find it on the GIS layer there.
So they might want to be interested in what gets put into the aquifer also.
You should probably come up and state that. Come on up and state your comment, just so it's.
All right, again, another statement, another point. It is an aquifer system, and further down the river, town of Goffstown pulls their water from the aquifer. They might be interested in seeing what is possibly going to be through the storm drain system being dumped into the aquifer.
So you would recommend that the
I would
town
think that
contacts
at
them?
least the waterworks down there would be knowledgeable as to their issues they would have. Well, honestly, being a New Boston resident, I don't know if New Boston doesn't take any water other than the people that live downstream that take their water. They might want to be notified that, or what might be impacting their issue.
Okay, we can get that in our comments or try to you know, everything you say to the best of our ability will be in the minutes, or some summary of that, and we try to review that at the next meeting. They'll get posted online, so you can check that if there's anything you think that's inaccurate. And then we'll try to summarize and make some comments to the planning board here at the end of the discussion. Those are all good things to be thinking about. Any other things that we haven't covered?
Thank you for listening.
Yeah, well, thanks for coming, and I wish kind of we did this earlier, because maybe we could have piggybacked on that site walk. We kind of got noticed a little late, and I was on travel, and Jeff wasn't available, and
We didn't know about it.
Yeah.
They didn't mention your memo during the last planning board meeting. We got your memo when we went and asked for copies of the application, and we asked for the memos that came with it. That's why we're.
Yeah, but it's good to hear from the affected public, whatever we can add.
And the fact that we got 2 volunteers here.
Yes.
Yeah.
They're probably gonna say, oh my God, this is the normal routine, we don't wanna be here.
Would I get my plans back by you?
Yes.
Yeah, sure, I think we're all set.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Did you get the map and lot number? Hang on one sec, let's grab that off there, just in case.
We 58 this year. Same as you are, ain't it, Bill?
Whitetail Commercial Development, 412, 202.
You then?
I'm 57.
See you Friday, Jack.
Yeah, I'll be,
Yeah.
58.
I'll be 58.
All right, I'll be there.
They're all leaving here and staying.
Because I was only, I was 17 when I graduated.
That's right.
Horrible. Getting old fast.
Right.
Good?
Except for 27.
Perfect.
Yeah, somebody left maps with us too. Do you need the maps or anything, these ones, or?
No, I think we got more of those.
You sure? All right. Thanks a lot for coming in.
Thank you very much,
Appreciate it.
now. Appreciate it very much for your time.
Take
Have a
care.
good night.
Thank you. You have a good evening now.
So, yeah, I mean, you guys, just for notes, do you want me to send an email, or do you want to?
I can send it.
Okay.
I got all the notes here.
Yeah, so let's just kind
I'll
of,
pass it by you guys first, just so we are all in agreement with what's said. I
Alright.
think the main concerns are obviously impervious surface. We already commented on that before. I mean, what's being stored on the site, transfer of fuel.
Really, just compliant.
compliance with that zoning.
29.
I think we ought to just, essentially my couple takeaways are, Bill's idea was the best idea of the night. I think we should suggest that they hire professionals to deal with compliance with the zoning Article 29. I think we can recommend it's probably worth having a wildlife study down there. Planning board's done that before. They can run with it or not. Just a recommendation. And just a lot of concern with, the compatibility of that sort of development and in the aquifer and next to the river. But I think the two big things are just,
Recommend professional development.
yeah. Right. Yeah. Way over.
Leroy, what do you think?
He's taking a break.
That's great. I'm gonna sit him right up in the middle of the table here. So, do you guys want to just send us comments? Do you feel like we need to vote on anything, or is it just good?
I think we send those comments along because
Yeah.
definitely issues with the aquifer being, maybe how quick this is being moved along.
Yeah, I would also send a recommendation that they should consider contacting the adjacent towns, because, Goffstown's water supply is right there.
Right.
We got that one too, yeah.
But we should really just make sure that that's a recommendation. I do think they, I was kind of, when this all started to scratch my head, something came up like rather recently. I don't know if it was Henniker and Hopkinton. I forget what it was, but it ended up, they actually called it, I went and looked at the New Hampshire Planning Board book, and there's projects of regional significance. And I think this one falls under it because it says if there's like water and aquifer and close to the town line. And, yeah, so they may want to, they should probably contact at least Goffstown where their water system is right there. That's pretty close, and we think about half mile, maybe.
Right on the line, pretty much.
Yeah, what do you think?
I think the thing is, they don't, all they've done is cover
No, it's no, for the development itself.
for the development, but the stage that he's in,
He hasn't
you're
got
not
one.
gonna do anything. You don't have to force
No, he's under planning board review right now, though.
it. Correct. But
So-
what I'm saying
yeah.
is, anything he's done, he has under no obligation to talk to anyone. Other than, get the property.
Oh, yeah.
But as this development goes, this compliance to that rule.
But-
And our zoning should state, I think you'll find it well. If the planning board need to contact other towns, they will.
I think they missed it. Because look at the, I'll tell you the RSA.
Yeah, but I think you'll find that if you get an engineering firm, if that is something that is pertinent, should be done.
Yeah, listen to this, though. So this planning board handbook just got updated in 2017. Because I started thinking about it. I was like, wow, this. So if you go in, so development of regional impacts. Criteria for regional impact, RSA 3655, and they said include but not limited to the following: the relative size and number of dwelling units involved if the subdivision, the proximity of the development to a municipal boundary, which is 2 of them there, impact on transportation network, anticipated emissions, proximity to regional aquifers and surface waters, which is both of them. So they probably should have at least let those towns know. And you have to let the planning commission know too. Or the planning commission can probably advise them. That's what we're paying them money for.
The state.
No, the ours is Southern New Hampshire.
Southern New Hampshire.
Yeah, because we pay them every year, so they can advise.
They get something from all the towns, in
Yeah.
Southern New Hampshire.
Yeah, so I mean, we maybe just recommend that they check. Planning board might want to consider checking
What
with
I'm
them.
saying is, that's part of our zoning,
No, that isn't
that's
No.
part of
state law,
state law,
and it's in a New Hampshire.
which state law's gonna be followed as well as the town.
Yeah, but if you don't realize it, it's like
Things get-
last time we reviewed this. It's like, just
And what are you referring to there? What is that?
that's the planning board handbook.
Southern New
Develop-
Hampshire.
New Hampshire State Planning?
Well, no, it's a guide. Just like there's a conservation commission guide. There's one for planning books, and you might want to just tell them they might want to consider if this is a development of regional impact, and that's the description of it comes out of the Planning Board in New Hampshire Handbook for Local Officials, December 2017. I mean, I'm not a planning board member, but I think that kind of hit the nail on the head on a couple of those. So they might have just not thought of it, you know?
I don't know where that.
Yeah, I don't either.
No.
Well, I mean, this thing keeps coming up for various reasons, you know, which aren't really in our lane. But obviously, I mean, you just had a couple people from New Boston here, and, you know, they're looking across the street at it.
Okay.
All right,
What else
so
we
we
got?
I've got let me see if I can get the pictures up. There's a beaver problem. Yeah, we don't have a real.
Yes, there is a people. I think it's,
Did you see it?
And he sent pictures.
Okay, yeah. See, yeah. So I talked to Jeremy. Someone at Meadowsend. It's got their trapping license, and you know, if we want to authorize up to $1,000 to have them trap that out, because they're flooding that forest road over there on the Felch.
oh, they're not even pelts anymore?
This time of year, you're out of season for them. Yeah, but no, there wouldn't be enough. No, it's
There's
a
no money in traffic. Every time
They,
you come.
some of them do, I don't know.
probably a conibear, you know, which is snaps the neck. I mean, you can do a drown set; it's legal,
That's
but more
terrible.
what the conibear.
Oh, no, snapping the neck is fine.
Yeah, I think the conibear is probably more likely to be used. The you know, so that snaps their neck. The
I've been on the wildlife cabinet side of that for 25 years. It's brutal.
yeah, so I mean, the drown set is like almost on a cable that just keeps working down
Yeah,
one
it's
way.
awful.
Right. But conibear will just snap on the neck. So I mean, if you know, we can tell them if you prefer that we only use conibears. We can just tell them to make sure they're only using conibears.
There's no
Oh.
reason to.
So yeah, I mean, they were looking for $1,000 to deal with that. There are no Valiant pelts this time of
They
year.
have to do
Yeah, they're out there working, coming up with a silvicultural plan.
They either break all the rules or they do it.
Well, I mean, as landowners, we can pull dams and everything.
No,
out.
I mean, they either have them do that.
Oh yeah, they're not gonna be able to. No, we'll ruin a road doing that anyhow. Yeah, because the road will be in soft. So yeah, if one of you guys want to make a motion, second, up to 1,000, we can add in there. Just tell them only use conibears.
I'll make a motion.
I'll second it. Oh, you
Word,
should.
Yeah, so up to $1,000 for beaver trapping, and we'll just tell them to only use conibears.
I'm gonna send an email to Jeremy.
Yeah, sure. And can we just authorize if we need to sign a agreement before next meeting, that I can just come authorize to sign it out of town forest.
Okay.
Yeah, I think next I would invite our guests to each take a turn standing up and just saying kind of what your interest is. I know you both want to join the Conservation Commission, which is great.
Why we're here.
Yeah, that's cool. Just introduce yourself. That's exciting.
Lori Davis, I live at 118 Buxton School Road. I love the fact that Weare is country. I love my local wildlife. If I wanted to live in Goffstown, I'd live there. I think rural is important. I think protecting our natural resources is important. It's a gift that we have, and so few people understand that once it's gone, you never get it back. And we've done a wonderful job protecting it so far, but there's a movement around that would like to see less of this and a lot more houses. And once you do that, you've lost what we have worked so hard to prevent. And you want to keep that growing, and I'd like to be a part of that.
That's great. Cool. Thanks, Lori.
Sherry Burdick, 382 Deering Center Road. I think she said it pretty well. So I won't say that again, but I have been involved with Mildred Hall. I'm on that committee, and we've tried to protect as much property as comes forward. So we won't have houses built everywhere, and that we keep it a rural area.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's why I think it's important, and I think it's very important for us to do that. Keep the land open so people can go out and hike or bike or do whatever they want to do during the, you know. I don't snowmobile. I used to, and I don't have a problem with snowmobiles as long as the landowner is happy with it. I don't have a problem with it, but you know, I don't want to see four-wheelers out through the woods or dirt bikes because they do a lot of damage, and that's real evident if you go down in Clough State Park.
Yeah.
That's really pretty bad down there now. In fact, I think they restricted all motorized vehicles down there. I don't mean snowmobiles, but I think the four-wheelers and stuff were pulled out of there, and the dirt bikes, I was down there mountain biking. Open again. Yeah.
Yeah, that's how I used to be.
Something I bring to your committee is, I'm sure he knows this, I'm chair of the finance committee. And everybody who knows me, Naomi can vouch for it. I dig. And I'm more than comfortable reading RSAs and case laws and getting into the minutia. Listening to you today, it was like, ooh, more things to learn. And I really like that because you can't protect if you don't know those things, and that's something that's a tremendous strong suit.
That's great.
Plenty to learn.
That's kind of, I mean, that's the part of commission membership that drives me, is just the land management, land protection. I don't really enjoy like dealing with, you know, site review and development and stuff like that. It's part of it that we have to do, and sometimes, honestly, it's like my weak suit. You know, it's difficult because these things have, you know, long-term impacts too. And it was helpful, you know, hearing a lot of people tonight like that, you know, knew something.
Would it be prudent to ask if either of interested in taking minutes?
I think because I'm on the select board and I'm doing a lot more research, I would rather not, only because I have a lot of stuff that I do during the week at home. But
And I don't even know what, probably ask that. Just ask.
Well, you know, Bill, I mean, we've got to get back to with Naomi and find out what happened, because we had a professional for a short amount of time.
yeah, minute taker.
A professional is better. I know
Yeah.
how to write, but I'll be very honest. Keeping track with some of this, for the finance committee, Matt is a whiz at that, and so is Bill Ruffman. Me, it's like, oh my God.
Who said what? What was the name?
Pretty much,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah.
It's not that I don't want to do my job, but I can tell you, you'd have the worst minutes on the planet.
Can we send Naomi a note tonight, Jeff, or do you want me to send her a note? Or do you want?
I can do it.
Okay, and just
I know-
ask her what's going on
I
with
know
it.
Andy has before. Falls
Oh, we have our newest select person.
Yeah.
Kind of. Yeah.
Well, I think they want somebody. I think that they're looking for someone to do that because obviously it takes, you know, it shouldn't be Naomi taking minutes for the selectmen either.
No, Suzette, you know, we need to.
Try and find something.
Oh, yeah.
So I think that it is being looked
Is it?
into, yeah.
Is it advertised or is it, I'm not sure. Where
I
it's
don't
at.
know if it's been advertised yet, but they're gonna be putting out, something for some jobs and stuff coming up, you know. So they may be able to add that in on that line, you know, because we're gonna do a block.
I wonder if they could get like a list of a few per diem people, you know, kind of like substitute teachers, you know, sort of the same thing, and just say, hey, you know, get a list, and
Yeah,
we need to do something though.
yeah,
You're not the only committee that has this issue,
Yeah.
in honesty.
yeah.
We've
Yeah.
been lucky in the finance committee, but most committees, it's a mess.
Yeah.
So the other thing too is that, I'm not doing it now, but for quite a number of years, I worked in the woods with a team of draft horses, and I logged and brought cordwood out and stuff with them, and I like to go out, I like the quiet time with them.
Yeah.
And I would like to see more of that done in town than I would skidders, if you want to know the truth. On some of these places where you want to put trails in and stuff. It'd
Yeah.
be pretty easily done if you're cutting the trees and feathering them out to the side and leaving the, but
I don't know how much of that is even available. I haven't heard much.
I don't know, but a few years ago, the Felch Farm, they did that all with drafts.
Must have been quite a few years ago before my involvement.
Yeah.
Here's the thing, economics now, who's willing to do it?
Yeah.
Well, there's people out there that have them. I mean, I don't know how many, but, because I'm not in it now like I used to be, but, I know that there's quite a few.
My neighbors cleaned their land well.
Yeah, oxen, yeah.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure
So-
Jeremy's pretty well versed in forestry and has his pulse on, pulse of what's available out there. Like the cuts of length system that's been employed on some of the jobs. I mean, that's kind of state of the art as far as lower impact. It all depends on what the silvicultural objective is too. Like if we're clear cutting to try to get early successional forest regeneration, then that pretty much necessitates using feller bunchers and grapple skidders and whole tree chippers, because that's just the whole system.
Yeah.
And it's it's pretty interesting trying to, the commercial viability, trying to match that to whatever your environmental goal is. Like when we get out on Eastman, and we've opened up that field that grew in. Now we've burned it, and we've got a pollinator planting, but like we combined a whole tree job. We cleared some of the edge of that. We used the town's masticator, but the town's masticator is not like huge compared to say a brontosaurus. Brontosaurus, a couple $1,000 a day to have that in there.
Yeah.
And that kind of ground, the chips right there on the spot, which that might tie up a little nitrogen doing that, but so it's kind of interesting, matching what's available, state of the art with your silvicultural objectives, and then our unpredictable winters are just like brutal, because it's you got to try to avoid being on the right site at the right time of year, trying to lessen your soil impact, and then mixing that all in too with trying to have the seeds from the trees, the right amount of shade. So I think Jeremy does a pretty good job of that, and some of it may aesthetically the first couple of years. I always bring up the example to people too about a clear cut. You look at a clear cut, right?
I hate them.
They look awful, right?
They do.
But then, all right, 2 years into it, when the stuff is this high and there's a bull moose standing there in October chowing down, does that look good to you? And then
Better, but I'd like to see them selective cut. I'd like to go ahead and see everything 2 feet and bigger taken out, and go back 15 years later and take out another cutting, and have it come back so the town's getting a benefit every 10 or 15 years from a piece of, whatever.
But that cycle's happening on the bigger scale. So the one thing you got to understand, Sherry, is so every different tree species has a different shade and nutrient requirement, right? And so when we talk about selective cut, really gets thrown around incorrectly a lot. I mean, you almost described kind of a high grade, actually, and we used to call it diameter limit, and it's hardly ever done anymore. We just don't do that. Most of the time, we employ in this area even age systems for silviculture, and it's clear cutting is an even age system where you go in there, the forest is back at year 0, and then it's regenerating. What's really neat too is there's stuff that'll come up that won't come up otherwise. Cherry seeds are persistent in the soil for hundreds of years. You might not have a single black cherry
because it's shaded.
And then you clear cut and they come up. And I'm like the guy who's always on Jeremy going, put some clear cuts in, because there's certain songbirds that are using that won't use anything else. It's so interesting if you actually pay attention to the species assemblage that'll come in. And you have to do it in the right place, right time. It doesn't make sense for everything, but if you just go in there and did the selective cutting all the time, there's a bunch of different things that a lot of people don't understand. They're sort of negatives. You end up you come in there, and your soil compaction could be a little bit higher because you have to do more frequent stand entries, unless you're using animals, like you said, but it's just not that common. And then you're actually kind of pushing more towards shade tolerant trees. And around here, that means beech, which isn't particularly valuable from a human perspective. And then it's an inconsistent mass tree, and it's got the problem of beech bark disease. So most of what we're really shooting for is red oak and pine, which are kind of these, both species respond to even age systems. And what we really use a lot of is a thing called shelterwood. So shelterwood would go in and remove like 60 to 70% of the basal area, which almost translates to 60 to 70% of the trees, but not quite. And then you get that regeneration, and the reason we call it shelterwood is because you get that shade above, so those residual trees, their seeds rain down on the floor, and you have seedlings, and then they grow and they're kind of protected, because white pine has a problem with the white pine weevil around here, so that shade discourages that. And oak is kind of interesting. I think, hopefully at some point we can apply some more fire, because fire really helps with oak regeneration. That suppression of fire probably is harming our oak regen. And then the other thing that's really missing with our ecosystem now is the American chestnut, with the chestnut blight. Now as some of these, there's been some crossbreeds of chestnuts. Maybe we'll get to plant some in our lifetime. That's starting to happen now. But we're also, now we're going to lose, we're going to lose hemlock and ash. Yeah, Jeremy, I was just talking, he said, Weare is completely infested with emerald ash borer right now. But we've got, got a problem with hemlock, where that's all going to die. And then also the white pine, we've got right now it's kind of a blister rust that's come back. I guess it's kind of modified a little bit somehow.
It'll make small red on one side.
Yeah, if you see a bunch of sap oozing on the pines, they've got it, and they've got a problem. So unfortunately, these are big problems that we've got to deal with and try to overcome or manage. So it's kind of, I would encourage to think about using the toolbox of all these different things. And you mix in aesthetics and trails. We're working on the trails plan right now. We got the draft that we just reviewed. We gave some comments back, and then there was a big mix up at the town deliberative when we weren't there, and
Nobody seemed to have a clue what was going on there.
no, and they
Not a clue.
totally misinterpreted the Warren article. I heard someone said, I thought Jeremy was somehow getting a $5,000 raise.
That's
which had
what I was
nothing to do
told.
with it. No, yeah,
That's what I'm saying,
We didn't show up.
no one showed up, and then on top, whoever put that in, whoever was doing it, didn't have a clue either what was going on, because no one answered any questions when I asked them.
And there was a cut and paste error that on the Warren article, the one that I emailed in accidentally got. It might have been the same one from last year, and just the dollar amount got changed, and there was actually some language about trails, because the town forest account, there's two accounts that we primarily work out of: conservation and town forest. So conservation, we're the agents to expend. Town forest has to go to the voters, and then it gets authorized, and it covers like gates if we needed gravel, this beaver issue, trails, whatever. Our philosophy has been just to spend it on town forest, period. And that's all we've done. And so, if we get a new town forest parcel, we might. We've got that in there as a separate line. If we need a management plan, that comes out of there. But those things are all independently, we're given a quote, and then we, authorize it, and it comes out of that account. So that all got, we weren't there. That's all I can say. We weren't there to answer. Yeah, so it got misinterpreted completely what was going on.
Yeah, and when I asked questions, nobody answered any of them.
Yeah,
So-
unfortunately, that's, it's too bad.
I felt bad that there wasn't a selectman there that could answer a question about that. So,
And we just haven't, we haven't had a lot of involvement other
well,
than
I think you
on
have
real
to,
specifics. Like land acquisitions, very involved, very supportive. But the day-to-day business stuff, not so much. And so the other thing we do is like the town forester, well, we call him the town forester. He's a forester. Jeremy comes in. we try to do it every 3 months. Have a public, anyone in the public can ask questions. We posted all the forest management plans. We try to put that all out there and be super transparent about it. People are gonna have different feelings about harvesting and about the way it's done. We try to give him the opportunity to answer some of those questions. And, we all, everybody in our lives tend to be super kind of, sometimes we have narrow vision on what's going on compared to a professional like that kind of knows the long-term intent of what the prescription is and what's supposed to happen. I'm really concerned about just having a lot of dead timber on our hands here with these various pest issues that are going on. That would be really bad because there's no market to get rid of that stuff if that happens.
No.
But yeah, that's it's just cool that you're interested. So that means you want to learn about it.
Right, and the other thing was I went up to Poor Farm Road
Yeah.
2 or 3 years ago. I thought that was a horrible job. Horrible. I mean, there was stuff left on the stump 15 feet up in the air.
Yeah,
Top broke off, they left it right there. I'm not happy about seeing that. And the other thing was, you couldn't have walked in there if you wanted, and there was a trail in there. You couldn't walk in there. You were up to your waist in brush.
Yeah, we
That
did.
was a horrible job.
Well, he wasn't aware of that trail. Even it hadn't been. That's the problem too that we're dealing with this on this management plan. Is the sustainability of trails, because there was a trail there. I knew there was a trail there.
Well,
he didn't pick up on the trail. We didn't articulate there was a trail there that needed to be protected.
Well, there
And-
was a board up there that used to have the information on it.
Yeah, but that was all in disrepair.
That trail was hard to, it was easy to pass in the winter because you could tell where it was all
Yeah.
I live right there. So
Yeah.
I think, maybe, and this is just a suggestion, there's a lot of high school kids that need hours to pass. And maybe you could get those kids on a Saturday to go in and work 6 hours or so on a trail. Several weekends in a row, because they sometimes need 40, 50, 60, 100 hours to get their diploma.
Yeah, what we're kind of seeing is just like with this company, for instance, in the on the costs and stuff. It's all going out there with mini excavators. And there's no. That's so hard to. It seems like a good idea, but it's just hard to execute as a group of volunteers. And there's there's this New Hampshire trail rights thing, which seems like that they can teach people to build trails, but it's sustainability. It's having we don't have like a hiking club in Weare, like up
No.
north. Those towns.
Oh,
that
yeah,
have
they go
hiking
in,
clubs.
they go in every spring and they work
Yeah.
all summer long on trails every year.
Yeah, like Wanalaska.
Probably do more trails than everybody in the combined.
Yeah, I bet you are.
Something that you guys really want to think about. If you go in there with a tree and haven't maintained it.
Yeah.
Brush
You're
come.
gonna be in there with a chain.
Yeah.
First year, second year, third year,
Yeah, you're right.
I don't care what you do.
Petrol.
Like the Poor Farm Trail, it wasn't, if there's no group that went in and maintain it, okay, they're not, not enough people using it and knowing
Yeah.
it. It's gonna require all.
Yeah.
I think we wanna be careful about how much trail we make, just like a ball field.
About long-term
It's donated
plan for
to the
maintenance.
town. It's a beautiful ball field, but now you own it, now you fertilize it, now you mow it, now you build whatever building. Parking lot.
Mhm.
You wanna just look at that
Yes.
before we do a bunch of development.
I agree.
Our deal, and we have a trail here. We have to go out and all volunteer. And there's a ton.
Yeah.
And if you don't have that volunteer thing, it's gonna be cost prohibitive because you really can't afford to have people out there doing it.
And the problem when you start dealing with kids are great, but then you've got to talk about supervision, you've got to talk about liability. I mean, if we're talking about chainsaws,
Well, they wouldn't be
sawzalls,
running
anything.
chainsaws.
But,
No.
but anytime you start dealing with that, kids, they're great, but there's a whole liability. And then we're talking about taxpayers, and we all know how our tax
Yeah, I mean, I have, my thoughts a little different. I agree totally with what Bill said, but, there are things that everybody values and wants to vote yes or no on, and, if you wanna put 50,000 a year on the budget for trail maintenance, I mean, to me, that's as valuable as having a Chase Park or Bolton Field or any of that, but that's just a yes or no.
Yeah, we may be spot on, and perhaps there would be, but,
What,
Yeah, I'm not gonna go out there and volunteer
If enough
to,
people-
yeah.
Exactly, not doing enough.
Right.
If enough people wanna spend that money.
Yeah.
But you'll
That's what
also
it's gonna
find in
take.
the last 4 years, you haven't seen projects for boat wheels, you haven't seen anything for Parks and Rec. The
Right.
town has not passed them.
Right.
Now,
yeah,
you have accounts, correct?
We have the land use change tax half or 75%. I think it's 75%. So yeah, unfortunately, there's a relationship with how much development is going on with that, how much stuff comes out of current use, and then all you have is the forest management revenue. So, so what we've really done is try to primarily use, like we said, forest management revenue totally on town forest properties, both for management, for maintenance, and for acquisition of new ones. And then we have used conservation as well for land acquisition, and also some miscellaneous projects, like we did a natural resources inventory. So, you can look in the RSA, I mean, it's essentially anything related to conservation it can be used for.
I get a little confused because
Yeah.
this is a new thing for me. There is a town forest committee, or is this
No.
also town forest?
No, this is it. So we're a town that only has a conservation commission.
Okay,
So
because
we
some
do
have
both.
town forest,
Yep.
some have conservation,
Mhm.
so I didn't realize that you were kind of like one and the same.
Yeah, in where we are, yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right, that clears up one question I had.
so, when you clear cut, like you did on Poor Farm, that was all chipped?
I don't think that was a clear cut, actually. That's you'd have to ask or we could look into the plan, but that, clear cut is so.
It was I don't know if it's a clear cut, but
Might
it
have been a
was,
shelter with it.
It's not a clear cut.
No, we could walk out there and I could show you
Mm.
actually what's going on, but, so clear cut is really, if you look, there's a good publication, Forest Service has a bunch of different silvicultural guides, and they have one for trees of the Northeast. And when you look at, so one of the tree species that you don't see a lot of in this area are trembling aspen and big-tooth aspen, and they end up being fairly critical for things like rough grouse. They're an early successional species, and then they tend to break up and start dying around 40 years or a little longer. So they actually regenerate pretty effectively from root sprouts, and but more than I want to say it's like 20 or 30 square feet of basal area residual, which just means a couple trees per acre of shade starts to impact that regeneration. So in those situations where if you're saying I want to have this wildlife, clear cut, and you got to really honestly clear cut it, but there's like next to nothing left, and we call it, that's a silviculture clear cut. So you might have been looking at like a shelter what I was talking about before, and there's some overstory trees that are left. Yeah, that's what you could be looking at. That'll come in, pretty thick, and usually you're shooting for like oak and pine under that. So, yeah, but there are some patch clear cut, and the funny thing too is like sometimes one of these philosophical discussions of forestry is where does a patch clear cut start and group selection end? Group selection is an uneven age silvicultural tool where you're taking clumps 3, 4, 5, 6 trees all together and taking them out, creating a it's like a gap dynamics. Think of a hurricane goes through. Sometimes it'll nail everything, but sometimes just
yeah,
here and there.
yeah.
That's kind of what you're simulating. But where does a patch clear cut start? Patch clear cut might be 3-4 acres, and we did a couple of those in Eastman.
Yeah,
And you go in and look at those, and they're starting to regenerate pretty good. If you go in those at night, you might see like deer, moose, a bear in there because you get some raspberries or blackberries.
yeah.
And you'll hear the owls kind of, they can be hunting on the edges of those. You might see some birds of prey. So it's creating all those opportunities Because, you know, I always think, you ever drive around like kind of up in Henniker and Deering, there's a big area up in there, and I forget who owns it, but it's not cut much, and it's pretty forest, but it's kind of not real dynamic. It's really just this open floor, and you look at really nice big oaks and pines, but that's all it is. You know, so until some catastrophic wildfire or hurricane goes and blows that down, you know, but then when that happens, there's a lot of coarse woody debris that's left, and it'll be there, you know, for 100 years.
100, yeah.
Yeah.
Oak especially, yeah.
Sherry, my take on this. The modern logger, it isn't just going to cut trees and, you know, it's an awful lot of fun for
Yeah.
and cut the length of the woods.
Yeah.
It's just dismal to look at for
A few years.
40 years.
Hmm.
But the plan that this commission has had is the forest.
Hmm.
For any animals, not the people.
Right.
And there is a new movement, you know, the last couple of years I've been here, where people want to do things.
Right.
So there'll have to be I think you want to keep your good forestry practices going, but there'll be areas
Yeah.
that will look like it got done with the forest.
Other areas.
It may not necessarily be good for the forestry there, but it will be good for the people.
Right. Yeah.
I think I think that we are gonna get an education on how to do that.
Yeah.
It will be two very different
Approaches.
approaches.
One of the things to keep in mind too is, you know, the life of the forest versus the life of the human.
Mm.
You know, we may see it 2 generations, but it's been going on long before we were here. It's going to go on long after we were here, especially if we don't put something there. Even if you put a parking lot there, it's gone in no time, just like your trail. It's history. Already in Poor Farm, I mean, everything's 6-8 feet tall.
Yeah.
Do we keep and maintain trails?
Oh, we don't have that many.
Not really.
Well,
You've
Because
got
you mentioned
Buxton.
something about
Buxton.
snowmobiles.
There's one.
Trails,
It's
Bill?
a all private one, but on this town, but it's a
Oh.
private one. Yeah,
But if it's on town land, can people hike on it, even though
can
you
on all of
snowmobile?
it.
Yeah. No.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's all intended.
Hiking or whatever you want to do.
So yes, you can hike
Yeah.
on it, even if you're snowmobiling.
Yeah, I mean, on private one, you need
It's
to go by
totally,
rule.
right.
Currently.
Yeah. If it's not posted, you can walk on it.
yeah. So we're trying to grapple with that right now. We're trying to understand, you know, how many trails there are. We have a draft management plan. They missed a few areas that they need to go back and get now that the snow's gone. And then, you know, that also contains some suggestions for new trails. Like they missed Rattlesnake Hill, which has a bunch of trails on it.
Speaking of Rattlesnake Hill, can you walk that railroad page? Don't walk them up?
Well, if the beaver haven't backed that up
Yeah.
too much, I used to, when they cut that off years ago, I was out there with a team of horses when Fred Blackman logged that off. And you could go all the way out through. I mean, that thing, you could just walk anywhere.
Yeah.
So that railroad track was used to go in with a team of horses and to come back
Oh,
out.
you did?
And actually, the train station was still there. It hadn't got burnt down until mid-70s
Oh, wow.
area. And we used to keep the 4 teams right in there, and I was probably 15. I'm
Wow.
guessing around 15.
Does Rattlesnake Hill?
Years ago it did. I don't know if it does now.
Yeah.
It's pretty bony and rocky up in there.
It is. It is.
And there used to be a spring on the northwest side. Used to be a nice spring come out up there. I don't know if it's still running
so
or
it's
not.
walkable as long as the beavers have it. filled with pond.
Well, yeah, if it's not too high and it's not over the bed, you used to be able to walk right out through there. It was a nice walking trail, actually.
Yeah, I walked up to Paul Dosher, but I think years ago. I think we came in from, I don't know if we went to Pine Hill and went down and just went across it, because we walked up and down some of it.
There used to be a ton of, several great big sawdust piles out there too. I don't know if those are all rotted down now, but they were gigantic. I mean, they cut a lot of that stuff up out there and brought it out on wagons out to the road and loaded it on trucks.
There is some aspen up in there, actually. And then there's a patch clear cut up in there. See, the Meadowson was able to access that because they've got the property in Henniker right up against it.
Mm.
They skidded out through there on that side.
Yeah.
And there was a moose out in the clear cut last summer when I hiked. It was pretty cool. Yeah, that's good. That's some good knowledge there. We are trying to grapple with it. I think that was one thing I needed to do, was try to contact whoever owns that rail bed, because it's still a successor of B&M. I don't know if
B&M.
Springfield's- Yeah. I mean,
I did the
Springfield
history on that a
Terminal.
long time ago. It was B&M right up through, and probably till 15 years ago anyway, when I did the research.
It's in the deeds when we bought it. It's on the plat, but I just finding out what office to call to see if we can get permission.
I probably have it at home because I did a lot. I think it's down in Boston.
Yeah, if you can email that to me.
I'll see if I can find it here in the next few days for you.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you know who the real estate office is for them, or the Bureau of Trails do that for us? Okay. Yeah, whatever you have. I mean, yeah, we need to just because it was.
Research it for a trail.
Yeah, that's all the same line that goes right down through Goffstown, right?
Went to Goffstown, yeah.
Yeah.
Flood took out most of that. 36 took most of the tracks out.
Yeah.
They never put it back in, and then when the flood of 38 came through, that pretty much wiped the rest of it.
Yeah.
We wouldn't think of doing what Goffstown did with the rails for trails.
No, it's got nothing to do with us. We only and that's the other really sticky thing about trails. So, people are interested in trails. I mean, it's good to have trails that connect and really go somewhere, but we just manage conservation lands.
Okay.
So
one
we're
of
not
the
really a
trails.
trail
So we're
committee.
not hot to go and get all wrestled with that.
Yeah, I don't know what
Rails.
what
So,
Goffstown
Trails
put
for
in
trails.
money-wise, but
Wheelchair down the.
I know it was a lot. New Boston put a lot into for that. Yeah.
Because it's so restricted, there's no like organization, no big organization that are doing anything.
No.
So they're stuck with all that expense,
Mm.
and they're beautiful, right? 2-3 years from now.
Well, if they've got enough gravel down, if they put stuff down underneath the gravel, heavy landscaping material or whatever, they'll encroach, in time, yeah.
Just all the stuff that falls in. And you go walk around this time of year
As soon as
and
you
wind's
open
on.
something up, the tree grows.
God, I just
Yeah.
look at my yard.
The light
and
comes
it
in,
looks
yeah.
like,
Yeah.
One other thing I wanted to mention, and they left, but as a citizen, I think it was pretty poor that they ever zoned that piece of property down there next to the river as commercial. I think we should look out of curiosity and see if there's any other stuff zone commercial right on the river area, because I don't think we should be doing anything like
maybe
that
we
right
should
against
be
the river.
revisiting the zoning.
But I think what you'll find is that was owned because of Route 114.
I was thinking that, but what also I was kind of guessing, because the zoning article isn't really that old. I think it's 80s. That might have been there before the zoning, because say like my neighborhood, that it was, made for the pond, right? And it was small lots, and it was laid out in the 50s. And they said, okay, this is residential, when they
Yeah.
drew the zoning map, right?
They didn't know
'Cause it
what they
was
were doing
there.
back then, really.
Yeah.
And I wonder if in the 80s they really knew what they were doing, because I think what happened was, I think that spot that they put those two first buildings in,
Yeah.
I think that was an area where they parked trucks when they put 114 up through. I think that was an area that they used to park the trucks off the road when they were putting 114 in, because 114 got put in around 1960.
Yeah.
63 or 4?
No,
It was in the 60s, because they were working on that the same year that Mrs.
I'm old enough to ride a bike and watch it.
Mrs. Hatlib,
Seven.
I was, I think, either 7th or 8th grade when that, so I think it was in the 60s. I think because it was the same year that Linda Hatlib's mother got burnt up on Eastman Hill, got burnt in that fire. She was in Boston, and I remember that I went down to see her with a group of kids.
What was there before 114?
So I think it would have been in the 60s, maybe it would have been,
That's what they call
It would have been before I was, probably 12 years old, probably. I'm guessing mid-60s at the latest. I was in junior high. I'm guessing in that time frame.
Yeah, there are a lot of like I know, I worked with Neil and Chuck, 10 years ago when we had this big discussion. I don't know if you remember, but the, with the Weare zoning, the rural agricultural had like the same lot sizes as residential, which seemed kind of senseless, you look at like some towns even, they've got like forestry area that's like huge. I think New Boston did that, like 20 acres, and so if you're going to say you're going to have agriculture, you're not really going to have it on 2-acre parcels all that effectively. You kind of so looking at sort of stuff like that, and like I always think, that thing the Public Works rented while they were working on the new building there. That's right next to the river. You got like.
See, that's another thing.
Yeah.
That should have never gone in there. I mean, in fact, when they went in to clean up, I think there was some barrels of oil and stuff sat out back.
Yeah, and that wouldn't surprise me,
That should have never happened.
It's
That
not
was
really
a bad
compatible.
decision.
Yeah, right. Not a compatible land use. It's hard to go. I don't know how many more of those issues.
It's not for us to decide.
Yeah.
Zoning board.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, it's right, but I mean, I'm just saying that was not a good I mean, I think there's been things that have been done in the past that, you look now, and because of the knowledge you know today versus 30 years ago.
Well, we did a master plan update. We do get input, Bill, when that happens. So I just don't know what the cycle is. So it's good question to ask here. That's another planning board question.
Yeah.
Gotta ask the questions.
Yeah. So
Yeah, I'm just curious if there's anything else that's all along the river, because I don't think we should be allowing that.
yeah, if you can remember, I just asked him what the next cycle is. To look at that, and then we would weigh in during the review because they had something mess up somewhere else on that last one. Yeah. In any event, so yeah, I mean, I don't think there's no real something from TOA. Which usually we don't have. Do we have less minutes meetings to file? Yeah.
I did publish them though. Or I sent them to Steve or Andy, and he published them. Good for that.
So we've got a couple monitoring reports on Purrington and Brown parcels. No issues on either one. So nothing on file that anymore. Or not. Do we have the minutes? Do we want to? Oh no! You don't do
I
that.
got them in an email.
Yeah, they stay as draft till the next meeting, which is compliant with the RSA, and then we review them if we can now, and then just finalize them.
Here we go. No, February. Last one.
Did you email them?
I don't think I sent them out. No.
Okay.
I haven't
Yeah.
been here.
I read them.
Did you get them?
Yeah, 2 months combined.
March?
March,
February, March?
it was either January, it was kind of hard.
I think it was
Maybe
March.
January.
Let's see if Steve's
Maybe I'm probably February.
January and December. I looked at them, no change, but let's see what's published.
Was that the one that was signed by you? Or
Yeah, January and December have been published already.
the one
Yeah,
that
we
I
approved
just
those
read
last meeting.
said it was submitted by you
But did we meet last month? So we had those comments that went out. Who was taking notes? You were?
I took notes, I have one of them for last month, yeah. I'll send them out. This week.
Yeah.
Not tonight, but tomorrow.
Okay, because yeah, we need to get those two.
Yep.
All right.
March and April.
So then I think that's about it for tonight. You two just have to fill out that volunteer form and bring it to.
Selectmen.
Both
I
have
think
one?
we have to sign it too.
Yep.
Do you already have it?
I have it.
Yeah. So just go ahead and sign it, right?
We didn't have a meeting in, February. We had one.
Okay. Yeah.
We're doing that stuff.
Well, Steve, I went up, saw herds of caribou,
Hey, way up north, huh?
matter
That's awesome.
of polar bears, seagulls, wolves.
Saw some wolves. Wow.
Fun trip.
I can imagine.
How many days? That's pretty neat, huh?
Biggest thing I know. No trail.
So what happens when you auger in the middle of nowhere in the 5 feet of snow?
Yes.
Shovel your way.
Bungee cord, shovel.
How many times that happened?
A few. Snow was over, probably over. Never found the water.
So is your machine long track? Do you have something special for that?
Big, big water.
Water.
Yeah.
Long,
Yeah.
so, water. Just a sheet of plastic. No solder, and they just limp up. At the end of that, I was carrying about 8 gas, and sleeping bags.
They make you hire a guide? Isn't it like above a certain parallel if you have to have a guide, or is that just for hunting?
Well, all the hunting and fishing, all of that.
Labrador,
is
okay.
guide.
Is it Quebec that's above a certain parallel they make you?
Yeah, probably.
So motion to adjourn?
No, because they've got the
Okay.
forms. We have to get that done.
Probably.
That's really neat. That sounds like a trip of a lifetime.
Well,
Yeah. I just,
usually pretty managed area.
So do you,
I guess so, because I'm the,
then do you give it to the board of selectmen?
no, I think you do. I think we just signed.
Sit.
I guess we don't sign. Is there? Didn't
Yes,
Andy
there's a
sign?
place
Oh, yeah,
for
right,
you.
a committee chair, yep. There we go. That's me. Okay, Lori, here's that. All signed, all signed.
Thank you. Bill, how many miles of, Illinois trail?
Sherry.
Over 100? Is any of that on conservation property? So why can't you use the trails that you use in the wintertime for walking trails in the summer? They do.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's just, well, the only one that's on there is, Wood, and that's actually, they had an easement on it before the town bought it.
All down southwest.
But we've got quite a bit with, Forest Society
Yeah.
and whatnot that.
Yeah. Have you got a list of all those?
Yeah. Come in.
You said
Yeah, plenty of moose around town.
Oops, oh, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Go up on,
What are you doing? You wanna get up again?
Candlewood Hill. Francistown, Marytown line. What's that?
I said I didn't know where that was.
What's that?
Moose, oh, where is it, Ken?
Candlewood Hill is on the Francistown, Marytown
Yeah, it's right over
line.
off Cram, near Cram,
Yep. Cram Road.
Cram
Boat
Road, which is
come to Boat Road,
non-passable
walk
with
out
a regular
the
vehicle.
back.
During the day, morning, night?
Early morning,
Late afternoon.
dusk.
Dusk is
Bear,
always
too.
good, yeah.
I have bear at my house. I have most footprints.
You're not
So-
feeding the bears, right?
The most consistent place to find a moose is gonna be in a an area that was cut in the last couple of years, cause it's just like a salad bowl. you know?
I've had them walk right up the driveway.
I
Yeah,
thought they like, oh,
in the summer they're in.
Some months they like the grass and
Once
stuff,
the-
they get in there and eat, but
90%
they'll eat
of
the
the
shoots.
That's only on the KMAs.
No, they like the mineral, that's really like rich food, they'll get in there and eat that, yeah, but clear
You can
cut,
tell
you know,
when they've
clear
been
cuts or
around, too.
cuts are real consistent place
I
to
would
find.
love, have gone to Berlin.
That's
to
all
find
pretty
a
much
little
grown
bit,
up now, though, that's 10 years ago, it was cut up there.
Eastman, there's a few patches, you know, but you have to kind of be out there at the right time, and don't get lost
They
coming
just
out of
cut
there.
Farron, another few years, they'll be loose up there, plenty of field space on the west side.
Yeah. Yeah, that should be pretty good. So now we're ready for the motion, I guess.
Motion to adjourn at 8:55.
All right, sounds
Thank
good.
you.
Thanks.
Look forward to being at your